In the land of Calabar of southern Nigeria, many years ago, there lived a powerful king called Ayamba. He was victorious in many wars. He fought. He was able to conquer all the surrounding countries, killing all the old men and women. But the able-bodied men and girls he caught and brought back as slaves, where they worked on his farm until they died. King Ayamba had 200 wives, but none of the wives bore him a son. Seeing that he was becoming an old man, his subjects begged him to marry one of the spider's daughters, as they always had plenty of children. The king considered their suggestion and decided to give the idea a try. But on seeing the girl, he did not like her, as she was ugly. But the people said it was her mother who had too many children at the same time. However, in order to please his people, he married the ugly girl and placed her among his other wives. But they all complained because she was so ugly and didn't match to any of them. They revolted that she would not be kept in their quarters. The king therefore built a separate house for herself. She was given food and drinks just the same as the other wives. Everyone jeered at her own account of ugliness. For she was not really ugly, but beautiful, as she was born with 2 skins. And at her birth, her mother was made to promise that she would never remove the ugly skin until certain time arrives. She does remove it during the night, and that she must put it on as soon as it's done. It's a secret that the spider's family thought they kept for a long time, but alas, the king's head wife knew about it, and was very fearful lest the king should find out and fall in love with the spider's daughter. So she went to a juju man and offered him 200 rods to make a potion that would make the king forget altogether that the spider's daughter was his wife. This the juju man finally consented to do. After much begging about the price for 350 words, and he made up some medicine, which the head wife mixed with the king's food. For some months, the king couldn't remember he had the spider's daughter as a wife because the medicine worked on him. He used to pass quite close to her without recognizing her in any way. When 4 months passed, the king had not once sent for her. Ideaha, the new bride, who is the spider's daughter, was very angry, and she was wondering what would have happened. So she went back to her parents' house. Her father, the spider, then took her to another juju man, who, by making spells and casting lots, very soon discovered that it was the king's head wife who made the juju, and had enchanted the king so that he would not look at Ideaha. He therefore told Mr. Spider that Ideaha should give the king some medicine which he would prepare, which would make the king to remember her. He prepared the medicine, for which the spider had to pay a large sum of money. And that very day, Ideaha made a small dish of food, into which she had placed the medicine, and presented it to the king. It was a bold step she took to serve the food to the king, as she wasn't invited to his quarters in a long time. As soon as he ate the food, his eyes opened, and he recognized his wife, and told her to come to him that very evening. So in the afternoon, being very joyful, she went down to the river and washed And when she returned, she put on her best clothes and went to the king's palace. When it was dark and all the lights were out, she pulled off her ugly skin. And the king saw how beautiful she was and was very pleased with her. But when the cock crowed, Adeha pulled on her ugly skin again and went back to her own house. This she did for 4 nights running, taking the ugly skin off in the dark and leaving before daylight in the morning. In the course of time, to the great surprise of all the people, and particularly of the king's 200 wives, she gave birth to a son. But what surprised them most of all was that she gave birth to only one son, whereas her mother has always had a great many children at a time, generally about 50. The king's head wife became more jealous than ever when Adeha had a son. So she went again to the juju man, and by giving him a large present, induced him to give her some medicine which would make the king sick and forget his son. And the medicine would make the king to go to the juju man, who would tell him that it was his son who had made him sick, as he wanted to reign instead of his father. Interesting. So the juju man would also tell the king that if he wanted to recover, he must throw his son away into the river. So it happened that when the king ate the last food, he was sick and had to seek help from the said juju man. As they planned, juju man told him exactly how they planned with the head wife. But at first, the king did not want to destroy his son. Then his chief subjects begged him to throw his son away and said, perhaps in a year's time, he might get another son. So the king at last agreed and threw his son into the river, at which the mother grieved and cried bitterly. Then the head wife went again to the juju man and got more medicine, which made the king forget Adeha for 3 years, during which time she was in mourning for her son. She then returned to her father, and he got some more medicine from his juju man, which Adeha gave to the king. And the king knew her and called her to him again, and she lived with him as before. Now the juju man who had helped Adeha's father, the spider, was a water juju, and he was ready when the king threw his son into the water, and he saved the life of the boy and took him home and kept him alive. He grew up to be a very strong man. After some time, Adeha gave birth to a daughter, and her jealous co-wives also persuaded the king to throw the girl away. It took a long time to persuade him, but at last he agreed, and threw his daughter into the water too, and forgot Adeha again. But the water juju man was ready again, and when he hatched, and when it happened, he saved the little girl. Even though the time had arrived to punish the actions of the jealous wife, he thought. So he went about among the head of young men and persuaded them to hold a wrestling match in the marketplace every week. This was done, and the water juju told the king's son, who had become very strong and was very like to his father in appearance, that he should go and rest too, and that no one would be able to stand up before him. It was then arranged that there should be a grand wrestling match, to whom all the strongest men in the country were invited, and the king promised to attend with his head wife. Wow, the story is getting tough. What happens next? We'll get to know in part 2 of the story the woman with the 2 skins. Hachia, subscribe for more and more stories. Bye.